Well, welcome back to the Point of Order podcast, an inside look at California politics in the state legislature. I'm your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover, and very excited for our first-time guest. Welcome to the show, Sacramento County Supervisor Rich Desmond. How's it going?
Thank you, Assemblyman Hoover. Great to be here. Hope you don't mind if I call you Josh
No,
during
please
the podcast.
do.
Okay.
No, that'd be weird if you didn't, honestly. I was so excited to get here today, I left my jacket at home. So this is the first time I've ever recorded without one.
It's a reflection of your hard work ethic. You know, it's not lost on me.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So Rich, excited to have you on. Obviously, how long have you been serving on the Board of Supervisors now?
I got elected in November of 2020, took office in 21, so I'm about 5.5 years in.
Wow. That's actually longer than I thought for some reason. That's nice.
Well, I don't know how to take that. Is that because I seem like a neophyte still?
No, it just seems because you're just so great, and it seems the time has just flown by. You know, it's like.
Well, as you know, I had a little experience over at the Capitol where you and I first met.
That's
that's
right.
where
I
cut my teeth politically a little bit over there. So that helped me. I think helped prepare me in a little bit.
Absolutely. Why don't we start with that? Why don't we tell us a little bit about your background, sort of like. Obviously, before Board of Supervisors, but then kind of what led you to running for the board.
Yeah. So I spent 24 years in the Highway Patrol, born and raised in Carmichael. I'm a local kid, youngest of 9 kids, live in the house where I grew up, actually. Went into the CHP and spent 24 years there. And my last assignment was as the legislative liaison for the department, which is where I met you. When you were a young staffer in the legislature, and then I promoted one more time and was actually assigned on a contract as the Chief Sergeant at Arms at the State Assembly.
That's right. Yeah.
And in that capacity, obviously in the Legislative Affairs Director job in the CHP and as the Chief Sergeant at Arms, surrounded myself with a lot of politicians, and some of whom encouraged me to run for office. I probably shouldn't have listened to them. I probably should have stayed.
I wasn't gonna say that.
I don't think I asked you. I probably should have asked you for advice. But some of them, I built great relationships with them. And the county supervisor at the time, Susan Peters, my predecessor, had decided not to run again. And so there was an opening there. And again, being someone who's from this area, knowing Sac County, knowing how Sacramento County has evolved and what the challenges we face, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and
I love it. Yeah. Well, I know that some days you may regret it, but I'm very glad that you threw your hat in the ring. We're very well served, I think, by your office and your team, and definitely have had a great time working with you. State county issues, I mean, lot there to work with, obviously.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your district, like the area you represent, because I know you represent a pretty good chunk of my district, but it's a little more, there's a few other places too, I think. And then also, like, what's your experience been on the board so far? What are some of the things you've enjoyed or not enjoyed?
Yeah, and great question. Well, I'll start with the district a little bit. So I represent District 3, and, Sacramento County is kind of a unique county in the state of California. It's an urban county, 1.6 million people, 600,000 of whom live in urbanized, unincorporated communities. I represent almost half of that unincorporated population. And the reason I say that is because most urban counties aren't like that. I mean, LA County obviously has a lot of unincorporated, but as a percentage of the total population, it's very small. Sacramento County, representing these large urbanized areas, that means the county is not only responsible for all the health and human services, but everything from top to bottom, all the municipal services.
Totally.
So what the challenge? It's great for me from the perspective that, hey, I'm from the community. I understand what the challenges are, and I've worked very hard getting the county to be more responsive to some of these municipal services issues, like code enforcement, land use, business licensing. Usually those are dealt with by cities, right? In my district, it's dealt with by the county. The problem with that, the flip side is, of course, if something goes wrong, you can't blame a city council member. You blame your county supervisor for one of these things.
Exactly.
So that's been a challenge. And I think in reference to your second question, it has been, I love representing my local community.
Totally.
I'm the only supervisor that lives in the unincorporated county, which I think also gives me a unique perspective, but also being, born and raised and currently living here, it is really an honor to be in the position. But it's a challenge, local government, not only because of some of the dynamics I just described, with the county having such a large role in municipal services and areas that tried to incorporate that couldn't. So obviously they are not happy with the county. So it's a challenge, but also I got to tell you, it was never my lifelong ambition to be in elected office. And it's tough. It's a lot of work if you're doing it, if you're doing it right.
Yep.
And in this era of, social media, It's difficult. That can be a challenge. And,
Totally.
I think people say you got to develop a thick skin. Sometimes I think my skin has gotten thinner the longer I'm in. And that's probably the most challenging thing. Yeah.
No, that's really tough. And you're right. I mean, so a lot there, obviously, like the unincorporated thing, I think is huge because, I mean, not only do they not have city council representatives and city government, but also they tend to get the short end of the stick when it comes to all the revenues, right? All the state dollars have to get filtered through more to get to them. And I feel like the roads tend to get less funding. Everything tends to get less funding. I mean, what's that been like?
Well, I mean, roads we could talk this entire podcast about the roads, but,
Exactly.
But it's not just the state fund. It's also a matter of, you've got 5 county supervisors, and each one of them wants to get projects and things for their own districts. And even those who have districts that are primarily in cities, they don't make the distinction necessarily between unincorporated and the cities.
Sure.
You can imagine all 5 of us vying for more resources to go to our district. So that's another dynamic that if you're in a city, you're not fighting among yourselves. You're getting the dollars. You may fight among your districts within the city, but that money's staying in the city.
Sure.
In the unincorporated area, it's a fight to keep that money in the unincorporated area and not get put out to other cities. So there's kind of a lot of tensions, but it does manifest itself, I think, in the condition of our roadways. I mean, Sacramento County has some of the worst roads in the state of California, and that's not hyperbole. That is based on an objective measurement. It is data, an engineering metric called the Pavement Condition Index. And again, being the supervisor that represents almost half the population, I have almost half the roadways.
Totally.
And they are bad, and it's always a fight to make sure that those dollars stay not only in Sacramento County, but that the dollars stay in the unincorporated communities, and that's tough. But that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue because so many people, as you know, they're not paying attention to what the legislature is doing on a day-to-day basis. But they sure as heck are paying attention to how bad the roads are when they leave their house and drive to school 100%. Or to the grocery store or to an appointment.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I'm constantly voting against like all these bills. I mean, we had like 2 or 3 more this year that would take money away from the gas tax and move it to something else. It's like, guys, our roads desperately need to be improved. And if anything, we should be investing more in our unincorporated roads, right? I have seen some pretty cool projects along Greenback and Madison, a little bit of work being done there. I know Watt had a big ribbon cutting this year on a big improvement project for Watt, which is great. It's Watt. So, but yeah, I know.
But that's also, I'll tell you, these have been some great projects. And as you know, I'm a member of the local metropolitan planning organization, SACOG here. Those projects are great. But they're very expensive because they require us to incorporate a lot more multimodal transportation for pedestrians and bikes and transit. All great stuff, but the dollars don't go nearly as far if you have to add all those bells and whistles to every project that you're
absolutely.
That you're building.
And that's sort of where the legislature comes in, right?
100%.
Because there's so many times when they're like, let's add this on and let's add this bike lane priority and this transit priority. And it's like, those are all great things, but when you make them a requirement, it makes projects a lot more expensive.
That's right.
So
That's right.
It's really frustrating. So what are some of the big things, would you say, right now going on in Sac County in terms of some of the big issues you guys have been talking about? I know budget has been one of them, obviously, and homelessness is always a huge issue, which we'll get to those two down here a little lower in the dock as well. But and even maybe some of your priorities, like what do you want to see during your next couple years on the board? So,
I mean, those are 2 of the biggest issues. Yeah. Certainly the budget that we're facing and some of the health and human services implications, homelessness. Roads, we touched on the roads. That's a huge issue. I would say the 2 things that are most important for my constituents and me, frankly, are homelessness and roads. Another thing that has been a priority for me, and it will continue to be a priority, is to, again, kind of getting back to what we already discussed, is getting Sacramento County to behave more like a city in these unincorporated areas, to show a lot more, I think, attention, engagement, strategy about what we're going to do to attract businesses, to improve some of these commercial corridors in particular. I mean, my district, it's Arden Arcade and Carmichael and Foothill Farms and Fair Oaks, some very affluent areas, some very under-resourced communities. But in most of these areas in my district, you take the larger commercial corridors, there's a lot of blight, there's a lot of empty storefronts. What can the county do to behave more like a city in terms of its economic development efforts, in terms of its code enforcement efforts, in terms of its planning and land use efforts to make it a more attractive place to come and do business, relocate your business, build an infill, housing project, for instance. That's a big priority for me. And
that's huge.
And of course that's the kind of thing that people complain about when they tried to get us to incorporate in Arden Arcade.
Right.
That's what people complained about before Elk Grove and Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova incorporated, right? I mean, I don't see incorporation happening, but there's no reason the county can't do a much better job in delivering these municipal services.
So what's it going to take to get that done? I mean, what kind of, obviously county government, a little different than city government. It's a lot bigger, obviously, right? A lot more bureaucracy maybe, but what do you think that's going to require?
I think a few things. One is, part of it, frankly, is for me to have a good relationship with my counterparts on the Board of Supervisors. Because again, if you're the District 1 supervisor, you represent about 10% of the unincorporated, or you only have about 10% of the unincorporated area in your district. So the way I get them to support things in my district is by having that good collaborative relationship with them. So that's number one. But number two is getting the good county leadership. From our chief administrative officer, CEO, down to the deputies, the planning staff, and even the line level staff, whether it's waste management or planning or land use or whatever. Get them to realize, hey, stop thinking about like a bureaucratic, large, nameless, faceless county. Get engaged in what's going on in the community. Pay attention to it, and really do what you can do to make it better. And we're doing a lot of that. We've hired a lot of new people at the county, and the board has. I think we've really joined arms in leaning forward to put more resources and more attention into this. So I feel good about some of the progress we made, but we have a lot more work to do.
It is tough, It's definitely a big difference living. I had a good friend in Orangevale that was just trying to fill their pool. So they had an empty pool, okay, and they this was back when Sue Frost was on the board, right?
Okay, yeah.
And they just wanted to fill it in with dirt. That's all they wanted to do, and they needed a permit for that, right? So they applied for the permit, waited a few months, didn't get a permit. And so finally they called me. They're like, Josh, what do we do? All we want to do is fill this pool in with dirt,
It shouldn't be that difficult.
Right, exactly. And I said, have you called Sue Frost's office yet? Because, she could probably engage on this for sure, with
absolutely.
the county. And within a week, Sue's team got him the permit, and it's like it stinks that you got to do that because you really shouldn't have to do that.
Well, and here's the part: they probably didn't even know who to call. Honest to God, there are probably, I would say, 150,000 people in my district whose address. So you may live in Foothill Farms, or you may live in Arden Arcade. Your address says Sacramento. They think they're in the city. There are city council members in the city of Sacramento that think they represent parts of Arden Arcade and don't realize it. Yeah. So a lot of times there's confusion about who people even need to call. And I think so. I'm glad you told me that after Sue found out about it. The county was able to resolve it very quickly, and I think that's usually the case.
Yeah.
Once you get through some of the confusion,
but it's just getting through that red tape and understanding sort of that process. But it's just a bummer, It's like I think you should be able to get that a little quicker.
As a local politician, our number one job is to get government to work more efficiently and be more responsive to people.
Well, and honestly, we our office does the same thing at the state level. I mean, I'm over here talking about county bureaucracy. I mean, state bureaucracies times 10 probably, right, in terms of getting anything.
But we know that's by and large out of your hands to fix that. It's a lost cause.
Well, it might be a lost cause, but I swear every time we're able to help someone with the bureaucracy, it's literally the favorite part of my job, right? Because I mean, we had a business owner who, we're just applying for an alcohol license that got stuck on someone's desk for 6 months at ABC. And it's like, how does this happen, right? But, a call from our office, we're able to get that moving. And that's, I think, the best part of my job for sure.
Yeah. You were very magnanimous to me at the beginning, but your office, your staff, you poached one of my staffers, and he's not working with you. But we do work very well together, and you are extremely responsive to constituent needs in the community. So you've been doing an outstanding job in terms of the public service.
Well, speaking of good relationships, the first thing I did when I came in was take one of your best staffers away from you.
Thanks a lot. I know. See, I'm barely over that grudge. A lot of passive aggressiveness going on here.
It's only been 5 years, but it's okay. But no, Mark's doing doing a great job too. It's just funny. I love it. To be fair, this is actually a true story. Okay, every time he calls me, I have never updated my contact for Mark. Okay. So to this day, when Mark calls my phone, it just comes up as Desmond's office. That's all it does. Like that, I have never changed that.
Well, I'm going to exploit that with him. Actually,
I still remember. I'm trying to remember where it came from. Right.
Okay, so. I'm going to remind him. Even your boss assumes that you're in some subtle way still working for me.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's jump in. We'll jump into a few stories of the week, including some of these more issues affecting counties, specifically budget homelessness. But before we do, something a little more fun. Do you have any summer plans? Any big, we're officially here recording this on June 1st, which to me is sort of the start of summer. My kids just got out of school last week, so they're at home driving me crazy, right? So what? Any fun things you're doing?
Well, my kids are having fun, but you and I aren't necessarily having fun, not for a while. I don't. We only have about a 2 or 3 week board break. I am no family vacations because my kids are a little older. They're working.
Yeah.
I do have. I'm Sac County's representative on the National Association of Counties.
Oh, nice.
So I have the good fortune of being able to travel to New Orleans in the middle of July for a conference, which I'm not looking forward to because it's going to be miserably hot. But other than that, no, we're not going anywhere. I mean, we'll probably take little weekend trips to get out of the heat. But how about you?
So that's a good question. Well, first of all, New Orleans. Have you been there before?
Oh, I've been there.
I've never been there. Is it fun?
I've been. It's fun.
I've heard it's
with
fun.
Good weather, but I know that in the
heat's
south,
going to be rough.
Yeah.
No, that's going to be muggy too, probably.
Yes, that's right. Very humid. Very humid.
Yeah, I've got. We're going to take a little family trip. Every year we go to Pismo Beach, so that's sort of our.
Okay, you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's good.
And love the coast, Central Coast, one of my favorite places in the world.
Yes. Well, likewise. My wife is from Carmel. I think I told you that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She's never forgiven me for moving to Sacramento.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I would either. No,
I'm not worth it.
Going Carmel to Sacramento.
That's right.
I love Sacramento too, but just the ocean right there and the weather.
No, you can't. You cannot beat the Central Coast. So no, you're smart. You're getting away and going someplace nice and cool.
That's right.
Getting away
and going to someplace
You're
going the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's right.
But honestly, the only problem with the Central Coast is it's so hard to get to.
Yes.
There's really no airports. You just got to drive, and it's not easy. So that makes it even more special once you get there.
That's not. It's a little. You're a little bit isolated.
Right?
Yeah, and I agree. No, my daughter went to Cal Poly, and every time you went to visit, it was a pain in the neck. But once you're there,
it's beautiful. It's great. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe when I retire, we'll move out there. I don't know. Probably not. I always think that when I'm over there, right? I totally live here.
Look at how expensive it is to live there.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I think
I'll stay in Sacramento for a little bit.
Great. Sacramento's awesome. So actually, so that's sort of our thing this summer, and then I'm sure we have a couple work trips that we're doing and little work stuff. Good. I'm dragging my wife along too, but just mostly summer camps.
You're on break. What?
We're off in July.
The 4th of the whole month of July.
Basically, after the 4th, we're off for a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I say off, I mean really we're just in our districts. We're off of session, which is honestly always going usually. So,
but you got to grind right now. I mean, it's a grind the next. month. This is the busiest time.
So we're going to be policy committees for the next month until our break, and then all the Senate bills, and then when we come back, we're going to finish up in August.
I know a couple of things we're going to be talking about are the reason I've probably been more engaged over the legislature than I have been since I took office.
Yeah.
On budget issues and homeless-related issues, I've spent more time over there, which reminds me of why I went into local government to begin with.
I just saw you at the Capitol the other day.
That's right.
Well, and let's jump into that. Before we do, I would say the other thing I'm doing this summer is my oldest is going to be a senior, so I'm trying to do the college thing. We're trying to, dive into where do you want to apply, where do you want to tour? So I'm really stressing about that because this is my first time doing that. So,
that's right. Because he's
17.
And you have two others?
I got two others behind him, but this is going to be my first foray into that. So.
Well, I'm on my last round of that. My youngest is going to be starting college in the fall.
Yeah.
And, all my efforts at financial planning for my daughter to go to college just went out the window when she decided to go where she's going to be going. But, you and I will have a conversation.
I'm just gonna be like, American River College looks good, man. I mean, that's where I went. That's where I started.
It's like, best. It's the best deal in town.
Send you to Carmichael.
That's right. It's the best deal in town in terms not only of the education to get your basic, for 2 years of education, but then the scholarships and the access you can get to other four-year institutions after
it's
2 years.
amazing.
It is.
It's amazing.
And I wish kids would take advantage of that.
I mean, that's
more.
what I did. We saved a ton of money. And also, the other thing is, like, he doesn't know what he wants to do. So if you don't know what you want to do,
even better. Yeah.
Why not do that first? You know, it's like, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he decides.
All right. Well, good luck with it.
I know what he does want to do. He wants to play basketball. So we'll see. We'll see where he ends up trying to do that.
Well.
All right. So let's jump in. Budget challenges facing counties. Obviously, so Sacramento just proposed, I think, an $8.9 billion budget.
That's right.
Sacramento County. I'm hearing a lot of challenges, right, about public safety stuff, DA cuts, sheriff cuts. What is your sort of take on this? Sort of, how did we get here, so to speak? I know a lot of the federal stuff has been a challenge. There's a lot of federal money that's being lost, and really want to see the state sort of step up as well. But sort of, what's your framing of the current budget situation?
So we come into this budget before, and I'll talk about the federal legislation and the impacts on us in Sacramento County. We came into this already facing a structural deficit in Sacramento County, meaning that we are spending more than we're taking in.
Sure.
I mean, and if you look at the revenue projections, if we continued on the same arc we were on without any of the changes at the federal level, we'd be okay. We're on the right trajectory to get out of that structural deficit at some point in the next few years. And so we're always, we have to be very fiscally prudent. I mean, my number one job is to be a guardian of the fisc, right? I mean, I want to make sure we're spending the public's dollars responsibly. Well, along comes H.R. 1, which, is titled the Big, Beautiful Bill. What that did is fundamentally change the structure and how Medicaid, Medi-Cal in the state of California is funded, and SNAP, that is the CalFresh, the food stamp benefits are funded. It injected... It changed who's eligible, and it injected a lot of new criteria and checks on employment eligibility.
Okay.
So for us in Sacramento County, we're talking about 275,000 people that are going to be affected by this. Wow. They're going to lose these health care benefits. And in Sacramento County, and it's, having a policy discussion about some of these things, I think is absolutely worthwhile. I think the challenge for us and for other counties in the state is there was no proposal about how do you cushion the blow? Yeah. How do you provide counties with the funding to be able to administer this new, apply this new criteria and ensure people who are still eligible are able to remain on the rolls? And the other thing that makes it really, really difficult, and because these are people who've been receiving benefits for years and years and years. This isn't just something new that California had been doing just within the last couple of years. The other big challenge is counties, and we are one of the Article 13 counties in the state of California, Sacramento County is, which means we have an obligation to provide indigent health care. And that's just not ER care, that's preventive level of care. The state mandates that.
Wow.
And now, after the Affordable Care Act passed in, 2011 or whatever it is, before that, the counties had money to be able to provide that indigent health care. After ACA, the state of California took those funds away from the counties. So now the H.R. 1 passes, the Big Beautiful Bill. We still have to provide the healthcare benefits for indigent healthcare for indigents, and we no longer have the resources to do that. So for us, if we have to absorb that,
it's a double whammy.
It's a double whammy. If we have to absorb that locally, that we're looking at up to $30 million year one, and in outlying years, $60 to $70 million. So right now, that is the proverbial. Kind of gun pointed at our head in Sacramento County during our budget negotiations. And you mentioned the public safety impact. So for us, $8.9 billion budget, about $1 billion is discretionary, right? Discretionary meaning it's not an entitlement program. We can control those funds. Well, public safety gets the vast majority of that funding.
Of that discretionary
funding. Okay. And in order to fund this indigent health care, we have to look at the general fund dollars is the only place that we can find it. So we have to be having that discussion about, okay, how much do we take from public safety to meet this state mandate?
So they end up taking the haircut there.
And that's the challenge. And I've been spending a lot of time at the legislature trying to, as part of my role in the State Association of Counties, I'm SAC County's representative on that as well, to try to educate members and the administration about the importance of funding this, essentially what's now an unfunded mandate for the counties, to provide indigent health care. And it's, the other counties are in a different position. They may have public hospitals, so they have a little bit of different dynamic. But every county in the state is facing this challenge. Every county in the country really is facing this challenge. How are they going to close this budget gap and keep providing benefits for people who are the most vulnerable in our society? So.
Yeah, and I know you've been talking about. I actually got a chance to meet with a lot of the supervisors last week. I think it was last week
at
the CSAC. I think was in
the
town,
legislative
right?
conference. Yeah.
So really, and this was the big focus, right? And this was the big topic was how can we help counties sort of, or at least provide them with the resources to get through, these issues and to weather this. And so, that was a really interesting discussion. So.
And I think, I think it's a worthwhile bipartisan discussion too, because I tell you, there's an awful lot of rural counties, red counties in the state that are facing the same challenges. You've probably heard from them. The rural counties of California are advocating for it as well. And
the rural counties, it's really tough. And I mean, Sacramento obviously a little bit bigger, but there's already budget challenges that existed prior to this. I think that was one of the comments that you made, and that's the other challenge.
That's right. Yeah. So. Yeah. And if you're a rural county, maybe your public hospital is going to close down, or you're going to lose so much infrastructure. Yeah. Well, that's going to create more of a burden on the urban counties. People are going to have to travel further to one of these urban counties where there may be maybe a little better infrastructure set up. So it's a real mess. I really hope the legislature and the governor will come up with something to give the counties some help this year.
Yeah, and the governor didn't really help too much in his budget announcement from what I read. So
very little, and no help for indigent care counties, of which LA County is a big one. Obviously, Sacramento County, a lot of suburban, rural, and some other. I think Fresno County is one as well. So
if you want to, if the listeners didn't catch the last episode we did, I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was all about the budget. So we broke down.
Good. Okay.
We broke down all that stuff. You can go back and listen to that for all those details. But I didn't see much help coming. So, but that's really why the next step of the process is so important, where the legislature engages and actually, tries to push back on the governor on some of this stuff. So, which we've gotten before with Prop 36. We've got funding. He still provided zero this time, by the way, for Prop 36.
Yeah, I saw that.
We're trying to do that, and anyway, so
that's a priority of CSAC's too, because even CSAC as an organization, represents all counties throughout the state, very diverse.
Right.
We weren't all on the same page with 36, but we certainly are now that it's passed, knowing that hey, it's passed.
You got to do it.
We have an obligation to provide those services. It is essentially an unfunded mandate that we have to provide these behavioral health resources to people who are arrested on a Prop 36 felony. Yeah. And the state is not funding that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump into homelessness. I feel like these are two kind of downers in a row.
But the Prop 36, it's a great segue.
The Prop 36 is a great segue. Point in time count came out, right? Number of people experiencing homelessness, both sheltered, unsheltered, in Sacramento County rose 12.7% since 2024, according to the January count.
Right.
Now, you're more of an expert on how the count gets done than I am. I know it's not perfect, right? But it is, some data that we can have to work from at least. But what are your thoughts? I know one of your biggest priorities, especially in the communities you represent, is addressing our homelessness crisis in California. Again, this is not something the county created. This is something that I think the state bears a lot of responsibility in as well. Yeah. And a lot of the policies at the state level, I've been very critical of, wanting the state to focus more on substance abuse, mental health, capacity, all of those things, accountability, right? Tracking where our money's going. So I think the state bears a lot of responsibility here. But what is your view of homelessness in Sacramento County right now, and what do you want to see sort of to help this moving forward?
Well, first of all, I'll say I agree with you on the focus. There's not been appropriate focus on the behavioral health aspects, whether that's addiction or mental health. And I think Prop 36 was certainly a recognition by the public that there needs to be more of a focus on that.
Totally.
So I think the state of it, I participated in the point in time count, physically went out, had done that 2 years ago as well. It is certainly disturbing to me that the numbers have gone up, but you're right, it's not a perfect science. They use an algorithm. I'm still in the process right now of trying to better understand the numbers.
Interesting.
Frankly, in my discussions with the Sheriff's Department, the HOT team who are out there every day, it's the numbers in the point in time count that there's been a large increase in the unincorporated areas is not consistent with what they're seeing in their day-to-day interactions. So I think, and I also think, this will sound like I guess kind of a dodge, but the 2024 numbers showed a huge decrease. I don't think that was accurate either.
Yeah.
And I think that's skewing this to an extent.
Point.
But I think one thing that we can take some solace in, or I guess comfort in, is that we are seeing more success with the percentage of people actually in shelter. And I think that's a good thing. I think to me, that is a bit of a vindication or a validation that some of the sheltering efforts we're taking are actually the right approach. So it's something we can build on. But in terms of the rest of homelessness, it is part of it is because I don't think we're taking the right approach, getting back to the addiction and behavioral health. I just had a conversation with a member of the legislature and a member of Congress actually the other day about the housing first thing, how that is so overly rigid in tying our hands, and efforts by the legislature, I think that you supported and the governor vetoed, effort to at least let us try to use some of those dollars for programs that require sobriety. Why not try it out and see if it works? So, I don't know if the legislature is going to try that again at some point.
There's
maybe
another
wait till
bill.
a new governor. Oh, there's a bill.
There's another bill right now, but it's hard when you see. So last week we actually passed it off the assembly floor, sort of similar to the bill we passed previously that would allow, I think, something like 25% of state dollars to go to recovery programs, to sobriety programs, things like that. I think it's desperately needed. I don't even think the bill goes far enough, but at least it's a step in the right direction. And the governor vetoed that last time. He also vetoed my bill on, tracking state spending on homelessness. It's really frustrating because I don't know if we're going to see progress at the state level until we get a new governor. And I also don't know who that's going to be. So who knows how that person's going to feel about homelessness and housing first and all this stuff. But you can't keep doing the same thing.
100%.
I mean, you can't. And we've spent $37 billion on this housing first approach, and we've seen homelessness go up. So I think at a certain point you have to acknowledge that something needs to change.
And I appreciate everything you've done to shine a bright light on it, and the accountability and having metrics, clearly identifiable metrics to gauge whether you're succeeding or not is so important. And we have not had that. And we have, I tell you, one thing has been interesting being a local elected official is once a program starts with a particular nonprofit and a nonprofit organization gets more and more deeply rooted, and then they get people on their board who are influential people in the community, I tell you, it is like moving heaven and earth to try to change that, to try to pivot away from that. And I think having more pressure from the state, frankly, to say, look, if this isn't working, we expect these public dollars you to do something. We'll give you flexibility, but we're going to hold you accountable, and you have to be transparent with how that money is spent. So I appreciate that and appreciate your focus on that, and I think there should be continued focus. But getting back to Sacramento County here at the local level, there's an awful lot going on, and I think this discussion about how much should be housing first, how much we should be investing more in maybe more intervention type programs, bolstering up Care Court and Laura's Law, advanced conservatorship things. Prop 36 funding, which we've already touched on, we need to be doing more of that. I mean, I think there's an acknowledgement that there needs to be more tools to kind of push people into treatment who don't otherwise accept it. We need to do a heck of a lot more than that. But we are in the middle right now of a top-to-bottom assessment of our local housing authority. They administer all the HUD voucher program. They administer housing dollars to build more affordable housing, and it's a joint powers authority between the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento. We've joined forces, both elected bodies. Despite what you might read in the local media, we actually work very well together between the city and county. That's one step. The other step is we just kind of a watershed event, in my opinion, is the Continuum of Care Board, through which over $40 million federal dollars flow, had been made up of nonprofit providers, stakeholders, for far too long. Well, the public expects accountability for how these dollars are spent. And it's harder to hold a nonprofit provider accountable, harder to hold them accountable than it is an elected official. So we just got the COC to vote to restructure. So the elected officials, representatives from the city, the county, and all the suburban cities will actually have a majority control over these dollars.
Amazing.
And I think that is a huge step in the overall, I think, accountability for how these dollars are spent, but also in forcing us all bringing us all to the table to coordinate much better in our response to homelessness. So those are two, I think, big steps in the right direction. Because homelessness, like so many other complex policies, there are things going on that are disjointed at times or very fragmented.
Yeah.
This is an effort to kind of bring everybody together and bring programs and systems together. So, you know, I think in terms of the structure of things, we're certainly improving that. But honestly, the improvement's going to be in what we see out on the streets.
Totally. And I think it all has, first of all, that's great news. I mean, I think that accountability piece is so important. And when you have bureaucrats or nonprofits that are, you know, really making the decisions, it makes, I mean, who are the voters supposed to hold accountable?
That's right.
Who are people supposed to go to, right?
They don't even know where to go to find out information about what's going on.
So that's huge. Yeah. And I think that could have really great impacts. I think it's a combination, though. We got to make those changes at the local level. But the state also needs to step up and make things more flexible, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where we're going to, until we do that, we're going to continue to struggle because there's a lot of dollars that are getting spent because they have to be spent on certain types of programs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great programs that aren't getting funded or they're having to get privately funded.
That's right.
Through donors, which is happening, but we could do even more with those programs.
I know, I agree. And you and I are probably thinking of some of the same nonprofit organizations that have now have had to exclusively rely on only private donations because of the Housing First policies and the restrictions around those dollars.
Yeah. So it's really tough. But I appreciate that breakdown. I think obviously always appreciate your focus on this. Every time we've done a community meeting together, I mean, it literally is roads and homelessness. That's that's the questions you always get asked. I know there was one meeting we did where all the questions were on state issues. And I think it was like you and Pat Hume were just sat down and stared at me and like, let this guy deal with this.
That was refreshing.
This is kind of nice, you know? That was pretty funny. But anyway, no, appreciate all the work you're doing on that. And obviously, you know, keep us in the loop as we move forward because we definitely want to help with that too.
Well, and I would also say, you know, I'm sorry to belabor this, but you know, homeless, you've heard me talk about it when I talk to my constituents. I kind of break it down in 4 C's. You know, we need better coordination, which we're dramatically improving.
Yep.
We do need more capacity, but that capacity is not just shelter and housing capacity.
Correct.
It's behavioral health capacity.
Correct.
You know, we need all of it. And that's where the Prop 36 discussion comes in. We need consequences. You know, I'm sorry, but you know, holding people accountable, whether you're homeless or you live in a home, it should be the same across the board. And that consequences, that's where you see the impacts on our small businesses in our communities, in our neighborhoods. So there has to be consequences. And then, of course, all of our approaches need to be infused with compassion. But I think it has to be balanced.
I love that.
With all of those. So.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that consequences part is really important. In fact, I'm going to move the agenda around here a little bit and jump to the PPIC survey that just got taken, and I'll mention a couple notes from it that you can react to if you want. But you know, on that topic of consequences, one of the things that I've been paying attention to is this LA mayor's race.
Yes.
This Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass and the other person. And, you know, a lot of his focus has been on, you know, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be consequences. I don't know if you saw his marketing thing last week.
No.
But he was literally taking a stencil to some of the dirtiest parts of LA and power washing it. And then when you pick it up, it says like Spencer Pratt for mayor.
Oh my God.
And it said, imagine if the streets were this clean.
If they all looked like this. Wow.
Oh, I mean, like,
wow, that's powerful.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, you got to give the guy an A for effort on that. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm not even, I don't have a, you know, that's not my area. That's not a race I'm involved in any way, shape, or form. But I think people appreciate the honesty, right? And the openness about that. Like, hey, not everyone who's homeless, like some people just need housing, right? And some people just need help with next month's rent so they can get back on their feet and they need a hand up. Great. Let's help those people with that. Some people are committing crimes and need a consequence, and that's what's going to get their life back on. You actually talk to a lot of formerly homeless people, and they talk about like, you know, I didn't get my life back on track until I got in trouble. Yeah. You know, and I'm telling you, man, it's like we can't forget about it.
You're right. And so to me, I go out. I've gone out with our navigators in Sacramento County. Actually, I've gone out with our social workers and our sheriff's homeless outreach team together. We've gone out together. But I like to do that because I go talk to people who are living on the streets directly, and you hear their stories, and you hear a few things always are kind of at the front of my mind. There's a lot of people that are not from here. And there's a lot of people who have been offered services but have declined. And there could be a number of reasons. A lot of times it's because of the addiction that they're dealing with or the mental health they're dealing with. Or some people just want to live that way. They don't want to live with rules.
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge this. Like you said, not everybody who is living out on the streets is doing it because they simply cannot afford housing.
Correct.
But that has been the narrative that we've been pushing for so long. And I think a lot of it started with Prop 47.
Yeah.
When Prop 47 passed, good intentions that, hey, we shouldn't lock someone up forever for being a drug addict.
Right.
You know, there should be treatment. But the problem is it went so far that there was no longer an incentive for people to deal with their addiction treatment or their addiction issues because they no longer had the threat of jail hanging over their heads. And for some people, they need to have that before they're going to participate in a treatment program. So I think that's some of the area where it started. But
it provides that accountability, right?
But it is so complex. And
well, you need to give people skin in the game, right? To get their lives back on track. And I think the hardest part about this problem is there are people, even if we had unlimited shelter beds, there are still people on the streets that would refuse to take those beds.
Yeah, and I say that all the time, Josh.
There are still people that refuse the help that you offer them. So again, sometimes it's not about just having capacity, right? Like you said, it's about how do you address the person that doesn't want help?
That's right.
Because they can't stay on the street. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of people in my district have a lot of compassion for people that need help, but they also are not okay with the lawlessness, right? They're not okay with the crime, right? Or whatever it might be that sometimes comes along with that. So, that's the big challenge.
I think the most successful jurisdictions have been the ones that have said, look, we are going to have an option for you, a shelter.
Yes, 100%.
But if you don't take it, there's going to be you're going to either get cited or you're going to get arrested for camping out in public. It's just it's that simple. And that's what I'm working towards. And I think there's a growing acknowledgement about that among elected officials.
Certainly, I hope so among elected. Certainly among the public for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And the people in our communities, I think,
why Prop 36
are ready
passed
for that
so resoundingly because you can't. I think Prop 36, the public said, look. You can't tell me that everybody's going in and stealing from these stores or doing hard drugs out on the street simply because they can't afford a home.
Correct.
Correct. There's more to it than that.
And you also can't have two standards, right? Like if I were to go, get heavily, intoxicated and start, walking around the community causing problems. I have not done this, by the way, but at least not that I know of. I would be held to a certain standard, right? I would be held accountable for that. And so you can't have, everyone sort of needs to be held to those standards. And it's tough. Actually, just this morning, we had a bunch of on my street, we had a bunch of houses burglarized, cars broken into.
Really?
And I live in, I would say, a relatively safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
And our neighborhood is pretty shook up about it. I chatted with the police chief this morning. I don't know any details about the person that did it. I think they have someone in custody, but it's like, this is the type of stuff that communities just have no tolerance for.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
well, it's funny though because some communities would assume maybe that's someone who's homeless doing that, which is not the case. Also, and
it very well may not be, right? But I just think the lawlessness in general,
it's the lawlessness. It's like the movie The Purge.
Yeah,
exactly. Out on the streets, whether it's the way people are driving or what they're doing in front of our commercial areas.
Totally.
Yeah. It's I don't know where that comes from, but it's a big challenge. I'm doing a community meeting tonight. On traffic safety with an emphasis on the e-bikes and the scooters it's pandemonium out on the streets and the public is up in arms about this. And I'll look to the legislature to make some changes to try to.
Since you brought it up, I'm going to put a pause on this. Since you brought it up, there are actually, I want to say there were 5 or 6 bills introduced this year on e-bikes specifically. And I believe about 4 of them are moving forward. 3 or 4 of them are actually got out of the assembly. They're all coming from the assembly. And I would say I supported all but one of them pretty much because, and I don't think they're all quite ready for prime time yet. We're still a lot of debate and things that need to happen, but most of them are focused specifically on giving law enforcement more tools, right? Police chiefs are supporting it, right? It's giving law enforcement more tools to really hold these, particularly kids, let's be honest, accountable, and parents accountable for, sort of illegal activity. Because in theory, you're not supposed to be on these things if they go over a certain speed.
That's right.
Until you're older. And but I'm also trying to strike the balance because we have a lot of bike enthusiasts in my district.
Yes.
There was a bill that I'll be honest, I voted against because it would have prohibited the sale of the bikes in California at all if they go over certain speed. I'm like, what about all the adults that are using these responsibly, right?
Yeah.
We got to strike the right balance on this.
Yeah.
And let's focus in on where the problem really is, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're paying attention to this.
it's hugely
The
important.
CHP will be at this discussion tonight, and I think they may talk about some of the legislative efforts.
Good.
But I think what it was, and this
Yeah.
a lot of this was becoming legal when I was doing the CHP legislative work.
Right.
And we saw that, there was a lot of confusion around the different classes of bikes and the different
Nobody
rules that
knows
applied. It is
any of
very
the rules.
confusing. And so the public,
Scooters,
obviously, they have no clue.
totally.
And sometimes law enforcement is confused about it as well. So anything you can do
Yeah.
to clarify that.
No, we
and
need
I
to
think
work on that.
hold people accountable, but make sure that the legal structure is clear.
Totally.
to
Yeah.
understand.
And I think, the challenge is, today you can go in and anyone can just buy these things in a retailer, and then kids can start driving them. And parents don't always know that that's not allowed.
Yeah, class 3 bike that can go 35 miles an hour.
I mean, it's like a
right?
motorcycle,
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's right.
I think, and kids are getting hurt. I think I actually met with a group of pediatricians recently, and they've lost some kids in the ERs, because of these e-bike accidents.
Is that right? Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah,
it is just so incredibly sad. So we need to make sure that
I'm told
we're
that
addressing
2
that.
trauma nurses are coming to my community meeting tonight.
Okay, yeah.
To be able to relay
I'm
those
sure they are
very
going to share
stories.
some things
Yeah,
that are
yeah. So
not
we'll
fun
see
to
how
hear.
it goes.
So good. Well, thanks for doing that. Back to this poll real quick. So we're doing this podcast on June 1st, and then it's going to come out on June 3rd, which means Election Day is tomorrow. But when this comes out, we won't know the results yet, so we can't really talk about that. But
This is all going to be stale by then.
this is going to be old, so I'm not going to focus on it. But as of today, you got Becerra, Hilton, and Steyer sort of fighting it out for the top 3. But we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. I don't know if you have any predictions, but then they'll be either true or false by Wednesday when this comes out. So
my prediction was going to be Becerra and Hilton, but it looks like Hilton and Steyer are really neck and neck.
you never know.
For the number 2 spot.
I mean, we'll see. It also depends on the polling methodologies and all that. So you never know, but it's going to be interesting. So that'll be out once this podcast comes out. We'll see what happens there. 45% of likely voters think the state budget situation is a big problem. I think that number should be a little higher probably, but half of Californians name the cost of living, inflation, housing costs and availability as the most important issues facing California today.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty hard to argue with that. And then the other one, there was one more that I wanted to mention because I just thought it was so interesting. Let's see, where was it? It was one on taxes. So it was something about, so it was most likely voters. There was a majority supported a one-time tax, the billionaire's tax, essentially, which has been proposed, of 5% on taxpayers over $1 billion. I think that gets a lot less popular if that has a potential of getting extended beyond that group of people. Well, the one time or the group of people, right? But then in the next paragraph, Californians prefer paying lower taxes and having state government that provides fewer services. So I'm like, well, that's a little bit, that's a little bit all over the place on that one. But 55% or 54% of likely voters say, I'd rather pay less taxes and have a fewer less services than pay the level of taxes we have now.
And this is I know.
That's pretty fast. That's California, man.
It is
like,
California.
That's amazing.
You know what's been interesting, and I'll tell you, maybe I may upset some people by telling you this, but some of the discussions with members of the legislature about this HR1 issue and providing funding to counties to restore some funding we used to have for indigent health care, they're kind of using that to try to get county officials to support new streams of revenue. New taxes. And, I am firmly convinced that we don't have a problem with the amount of money flowing in. It's the way the money is spent. And this has come up for me locally in the context of transportation tax. And it comes up about, our roadways, the condition of our roadways. It's not necessarily that we don't have enough money. The gas tax issue is an issue that the legislature has to deal with that. But it's a matter of how that money is spent. And are we putting too much criteria, too many restrictions around how we can spend that money?
Well, and the cost of these projects, back to your point. I mean, things are just too expensive. I always say, like, we got to reduce the cost of producing some of these projects too, because Otherwise, you're in big trouble.
I am loath to
Money doesn't
support
go
a
as far
tax
as it
measure
used to.
or to ask my constituents to support a tax measure, especially in light of all the affordability issues that you're citing, unless I am absolutely 100% convinced that we need it.
I just thought it was fascinating that came from California voters. I mean, these are not, this is not a state that is particularly anti-tax historically, but I think people are feeling it right now.
Yeah,
On
absolutely.
the affordability side.
No, they know what the impact's going to be to them directly if there's a tax increase.
I got to ask you about Sacramento MLB expansion.
Oh, exciting stuff, And, sometimes you'll hear some naysayers about this. I was just talking to some people the other day. We had that big press conference last Thursday.
Yeah, I heard. I was stuck on the floor, but I wanted to be there.
It's exciting. And I've been involved in some conversations with Mayor McCarty and others, the GSEC folks and West Sac folks and Yolo County about this. Look, the MLB has made it very clear that they're gonna come up with 2 expansion teams. One East Coast, one West Coast.
Great.
We're looking at competing against Portland and Salt Lake City. I think we're a bigger media market than either one of them.
Yep.
We're
also not Portland. We're not
Portland, which is very good. But I tell you, we are also Sacramento. Again, born and raised here. Sacramento has a very strong baseball ecosystem.
100%.
I just went in my district in Carmichael.
Totally.
The opening of 2 businesses that are about like baseball They're baseball training facilities. I coached my kids in Little League. I played in different Little Leagues when I was growing up. I played baseball till I got cut from my high school team.
Oh man!
But I think Sacramento would embrace Major League Baseball.
100%.
And I think we have a real shot at this. I think there are some big time investors already lined up. So, but we've got to get enthusiasm about this in the community and stop doubting ourselves in Sacramento.
I think it would be huge. And to be honest with you, I think we should get a leg up. I mean, we stepped up for the A's.
That's right.
Right. I mean, we've shown that we can support a team. And I think the fact that we were willing to say, hey, you know what, we'll take the A's on for 3 years and welcome them with open arms, even though it's sort of Giants country around here.
It is. But I'm ready to – the Giants are so bad this year, I'm ready to defect. I don't know if I should say that publicly. But yes, I think the A's, but I think it's incumbent upon people, hey, if you support baseball, you want more baseball, go to more A's games because I think the Major League Baseball, they're paying attention.
They are paying attention to that for sure. And I think the A's have hurt that a little bit by like doing this sort of the Vegas in between thing. But,
well, they didn't want to embrace the
not really embracing Sacramento.
But
I don't think that helps.
Changed. It's
I think
better
it has.
now.
I think they've gotten a little better on that. I went to a game recently. The crowd was great. A lot more. I actually went to the A's Giants. A year ago when I did that, it was mostly Giants fans.
Yes, that's right.
And this year, it was about 50-50. It was a lot more A's fans. So you got to, I mean, maybe that's because they're better this year, but I don't know.
I'm going to an A's-Dodgers game
there
later
you
this
go.
month.
Now that'll root for the A's all day.
There'll be, I know. But there'll be a lot of Dodgers fans there.
I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, so super exciting stuff. Obviously, some big investors stepping up. There was we'll put stuff in the notes for if people want to read more, but there was a new stadium plan sort of announced and still need, I think, some lead investors. But I think it's really great, and I hope that we really do. I mean, you look at our competition. I mean, Salt Lake City, probably a wonderful place. I haven't really been there. But at the end of the day, like Sacramento, like the media market, the region, I went to the Dusty Baker School of Baseball growing up.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yes,
well, Dusty,
I did.
Dusty was at this
I know
press
Dusty
conference.
was there, and I was super jealous. I love Dusty Baker.
Man, I would have gotten his autograph for you.
I think I have it somewhere, honestly. But, I mean, he used to do a big baseball clinic in Sacramento that I used to go to as a kid because he was that invested in the town. And and then Aaron Judge is from – this area as well.
Where's he from?
Well, he grew up in Linden and he played in, but I think he's from Sacramento. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of baseball history here,
we do.
and I think it would just be awesome to see this happen. So we'll see.
And I frankly think, I think you would get more excitement about a Major League Baseball team, frankly, than a basketball team. I think it has more broader appeal across this region. I think everybody needs to really embrace this. We have a real shot at this. So
yeah, no, totally agree. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Last thing I got to mention, even though we're at the very end of time here, I got to mention that it was the House of Origin deadline in the legislature last week, which is sort of our mid-year point of the legislative session where every bill introduced in the Assembly has to get out of the Assembly by last Friday. Same with the Senate. Every bill introduced in the Senate has to get out of the Senate by last Friday. It's called our House of Origin deadline. lot of bills. I mean, 700 bills, maybe 600 and something, but it felt like 1,000. I mean, it was constant. So a lot of bills discussed.
All good ones too.
All good ones. I'm not going to go through them all because
please don't.
There's just no way. And honestly, some of them you'll just have to read for yourself. We'll put KCRA actually put a really good write-up together, some of the biggest bills that got out that we'll put in the show notes. A few that I did want to mention, though, that I was personally involved in, I think would be AB 1709, which would essentially restrict social media platforms from platforming kids under 16 if their platform has a number of addictive features as defined in the bill. So this has been I'm a joint author on this bill. It's obviously been a bit controversial, but at the end of the day, when you look at the research on how social media is impacting young minds, it's pretty astounding and it's pretty horrifying. And so I think we've crafted this bill in a really good way where we're not saying you can't be on the platforms, but you can't be on a typical like addictive platform. What do we mean by that? Like the infinite scrolls, the auto plays, like the stuff that is literally designed to keep you locked in, right? That's really the stuff we're trying to protect those under 16 from. So it's modeled a little bit of what they've done in Australia, but it's a little more flexible, I would say, than Australia's policy. But that bill passed so there's 80 assembly members, over 70 votes.
Great.
No votes, tons of bipartisan support. I mean, it actually gave me hope for the legislature a little bit that we can still work together on this.
Yeah.
And it was fully bipartisan. I mean, of all the bills that were debated last week, it was just fully embraced with bipartisan, commitment.
That's good. It's a glimmer of hope. That's
which
good to hear.
Is a really good sign. And I actually mentioned that in my speech. I was like, anyway, so actually, speaking of my speech, because I won't play it for you here. You don't want to hear that. But in my speech, what I did was this was inspired by Jonathan Haidt, he wrote The Anxious Generation, and let's see if I can find it here. But he asked AI. There was this trend for a while of asking AI, if you were the devil, what would you do to destroy the next generation without them even knowing it? And I encourage everybody, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find all my stuff here, but I encourage everyone to go to whatever chatbot they prefer, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, whatever you like. Ask that question, see what it comes up with. And it will literally blow your mind.
Wow.
So what it came back with here for me was it actually gave me 6 steps to destroying the next generation, which is pretty scary. But the number 1 is get every kid a pocket computer by age 8. Flood it with dopamine hits engineered by the world's smartest psychologists, short-form videos, infinite scrolls, porn that rewires their brains before they've even kissed someone. Make solitude feel like punishment and real-world effort feel pointless. And by the time they're 18, their attention span will be shot, their imagination atrophied, and they literally cannot sit alone with their own thoughts. They think they're connected. They're actually alone in the most populated era in history.
Wow. And you read excerpts
that
from
was
this
from
at your
Grok.
floor speak?
I read this verbatim because I was so blown away by it. I've never actually asked it, and I was sitting there at my seat like, I'm going to ask it right now. And I was like, I got to read this. So anyway,
wow.
We'll put the link in the thing.
Feels like some diabolical plot.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, and that's
crazy.
Like AI talking, and I'm like, oh,
holy.
Geez, it honestly kind of creeped me out, and I shared it because I had to do it.
Well, thank you for paying attention to these issues in the legislature, because I think there is
this is definitely a big passion.
This is an existential issue, and that's
totally so. Anyway, last couple bills. There was we passed a bill to audit the next generation 911 system in California, which has been a total taxpayer sort of waste up until this point. I'm hoping that we can salvage something there. And then we also, last one I'll mention, AB 2727 would reform the elderly parole program in California, which is this program that's been allowing all these violent sexual predators back onto the streets. This would 50 years old in California, you're considered elderly.
Right.
This would, for a lot of the sex crimes, make that 65, which I think doesn't go far enough, but it is a step in a better direction. But it's unbelievable
Sheriff Cooper
to me.
supports this.
Oh, he does.
He just talked about the other
Cooper,
day
Tinho are fully behind it. But it is unbelievable to me you can be 50 years old. Do you feel elderly, Rich? I'm not assuming your age here, sir, but
Yeah, no, I'm well over that, and I don't feel elderly, but
no,
you know,
no, absolutely
after this
not.
podcast, I do.
Exactly right.
No, I'm glad you're doing that too, and I support
so
that.
Anyway,
obviously,
I'm hoping that thing keeps moving through. But anyway, I think we're out of time. I didn't know if we were going to be able to fill the time, but we filled more than enough time.
Yeah,
so
this is great.
I want to get you out of here. Final thoughts before you go. Anything you want to share?
No, hey, I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad you're having these discussions. I know this will be stale by the time it airs because of the election, so hopefully you can have me on another time.
No, it's all good.
It's been a great discussion.
We talked about a lot of things that are still going to be relevant on Wednesday.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it, and thanks for coming on, and hope to have you on again for sure.
Okay.
See you later.